Hey everybody, welcome to the very first session of Wakelet Community Week. We are so excited to join you this week, all of you in the chat or all of you watching the replay. Yes, all of the sessions this week, including this session, will be recorded on the Wakelet YouTube channel. So make sure that you've bookmarked the Wakelet YouTube channel so you can go back and watch your favorites or forward those links to your friends who maybe missed these sessions live. I am Tisha at Wakelet, and I am here in Manchester, England, joining all of you for Community Week. And I am really excited for this session. But first, we have a couple of things that we want to remind you about. The first thing is that we want to remind you that there is a competition going on. The competition is for you to share anything that you loved about Community Week, anything that resonated with you, anything that you're excited about, even photos or screenshots of where you're watching Wakelet Community Week from, whether that be from the beach or your desk or England, if you happen to be in England, wherever you are. And then make sure that you are not only using the hashtag Wakelet Community Week, but you are also tagging at Wakelet so that Wakelet and all of the team members here can see your posts and share those out. Again, this session, as is for all of the sessions this week, everything is recorded. And your certificate link, which I know you're all going to ask about, that certificate link is going to be at the end of this session. You will also get resources at the end of this session. If you are unsure about any of those resources, make sure you pop it in the chat. We have our team here. They are ready to respond to your questions and give you those answers immediately. So good morning. Please shout out in the chat. Tell us where you are joining from. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have my co-presenter, Donna, join me from Miami. Hello, Donna. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Tisha. How are you?
Great. I'm so excited to be here with you, Donna. I see so many people in the chat from New Hampshire all the way from Texas. I'm seeing Malaysia. Are you seeing anybody that you are noticing that you recognize their name? There's Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. We're so excited to see you, Ryan. And Susan from Indianapolis. I'm just looking at the chat. We're so excited to see all of you. And Donna and I have a really, really fun session to share with you. And it may not sound fun, right, Donna?
I know. And everybody just cringes like, oh, I can't.
And I have to say a shout out to Rosa, because Rosa says, Donna, that she is from Seminole ISD in Seminole, Texas. And
Wow.
Because I am hosting this session, if you did not know, Seminole, Texas is my hometown. That is where I grew up. So shout out especially to you. We have some team members joining us from Manchester. Shout out to Rick. Amy is on. She's checking everything out. Lois. This is so exciting, Donna, that you and I get to start this.
I know. I just love looking where everybody's from. Oh my goodness. My friend Yvette is on. Always fun with Donna. I love her. Yes, actually, it's really fun. Every once in a while, I've seen somebody, oh, I think I know that name. So
do you see that Mr. Coach K15, which is also Andy Knieven, is joining us? So shout out to Andy. Tanya, we're so excited to see you. How fun to see your students on Wakelet Live yesterday. I will tell you that those were such heartwarming stories for our team here to see. So Donna, are you ready to get started? And we're going to go ahead and just dive into everything that we want to share.
Let's go. I'm ready.
So we are going to, I've already screen shared. We're going to pull up my screen and let's just go ahead and add that. Donna, you let me know if you can see my screen right now.
I can. We're good
Beautiful.
to go. Yep.
Well, it is now your time to take over the mic because we are going to let you introduce yourself. And for those of you watching, I'm sharing this Wakelet collection. You will have access to this collection so you can connect with Donna. But Donna, tell us more about you, how long you've been teaching, what your expertise is.
Well, I've been in the school system for about 36 years, and I've taught just about, I've always worked with special needs kids. So it was special education, reading as a reading coach and a reading teacher. And now I work for bilingual at the district level. So I've been here for about 36 years. I don't know what my expertise is, but I really think that what I'm seeing is that technology is taking over, right? So my roots are going back to project-based learning, to really looking at what students can do. So I think that's at least where my passion is. So maybe that's my expertise as well. And I will say to everybody, like, I'm not a techie guru kind of a person. So my Instagram is minimal, my Twitter is minimal, my everything is minimal. I'm not one that posts everything that I do. However, I see the value of it. And Tisha is really like guiding me a little bit more. She's encouraging me. So, little by little, my online presence might be a little bit more exotic or exciting. But I'm not one of those people that is super connected with everything technology. But when I get something that I love, I really go with it.
Absolutely, Donna. And I think you've said really a key phrase here that we want all of our viewers to remember, which is little by little. The things that Donna and I are going to talk to you about today, like I say in every training, every webinar, there's never an expectation for you to just go all in with it. If you can take one thing away from this session, Student Portfolios, the Future of Assessment, just one nugget, and then begin building onto that little by little. That's really what Donna and I want. And she's going to share her expertise today and her passion truly about assessments, as well as authentic assessments using digital learning portfolios. And of course, I'm Tisha with Team Wakelet. You can connect with me on Twitter. I'm also on Wakelet. Obviously, you can find Donna and I both on Wakelet. You can find me on Instagram as well, or LinkedIn. I will meet you wherever you are. And Donna's right, I do post a little bit more, and we are working together little by little to build Donna's social media.
We are.
So Donna, one of the questions that you and I first discussed when we sat down to put this presentation together, I asked you, what do we want our attendees, our audience members, those who are going to go back and watch this replay, what question do we want to ask them? And one of the things that you said to me was, how can we rethink what we already know about assessment? And how can we gauge student knowledge differently? Would you speak to us about this just a little bit and give us your thoughts on why these questions are so important for all of us to ask ourselves?
Well, Tisha, really, honestly, I want to let everybody know that Tisha and I, we're such nerds, and we talk about education all the time. We talk about assessing. We talk about just things in general relating to technology and students. And one of the things that struck me recently was on Instagram. You may have seen it. It was a picture of, a classroom in the 1900s, a classroom in the 1910 and the 1950s up until 2024. And they look almost exactly the same. And from what I know is that we're doing a lot of the same things that we've always done, but we're expecting different results. And so one of the things that we know as from the district level, it's all about data, right? And I think that we're in the age of technology takeover, because our students can be assessed on the computer and we can get an immediate result. We can get green, yellow, and red dots on a piece of paper, on our computer immediately. But does that really gauge what the student knowledge is? And I have to say that we really have to rethink what some of that assessment is really telling us. I like to go back to my roots, which are special education and project-based learning, and take those roots and go to the tree, right? Because at the end, the tree is when our students are out of school and they're in a job and they're in a profession. They're typically not going to be assessed using computer bases. They're going to be assessed for performance. What can they do? What do they know? What can they deliver? And as teachers, right, we understand that the district, the state might be telling us, you have to take this test, whether it's paper, pencil, or computer-based. But in the classroom, you might have some autonomy on what you're doing in the classroom to gauge that knowledge differently. And that's what I want to implore to teachers is, yes, we do have to do what the state tells us and what the district tells us. However, let me have some autonomy in my classroom and take the things that you already know, your assignments, your activities in your classroom. And here we go. We're looking at taking a balance, right? So when I started looking at portfolios, when I first started learning about portfolios and the idea of curation, it made me really understand that, wait a minute, yes, I can get information immediately from a computer-based test, but does that really tell me what my students know? We need a little bit of a balance. We need to be able to take, what am I doing in the classroom? What are my students doing in the classroom? What do I, as the teacher, want to know how I taught? In 5 years or 10 years, when you're walking down the street and that student sees you, right? That student has little kids and they say, oh, that's Miss Poncio, and this is what she taught me, right? That's where the telltale sign is. And I was recently at dinner with a friend of mine, and the bus boy was a student of hers, and he just raved about her, and that's Miss Green, who's on this call. And he was like, oh yeah, she made reading and literature so much fun, right? It wasn't just about that test that I took, and she prepared me for that test and that standard, because if she made reading fun and authentic, and she made literature fun, and I want to read more, then I have the capability as a teacher to go back to the standards, go back to what I know I should be teaching, because that student is engaged in having fun, right? And that's what I think portfolios and Wakelet portfolios really offer for teachers and for students. It's creativity, it's fun, it's the most authentic way to show what they know.
You know, Donna, it's interesting because Ryan and I use a slide. I found a quote a year or so ago, and it really talks about, really speaks to what you just said, which is, you know, data is a snapshot of that student's learning, the assessments, you know, those state standard tests. It's a snapshot, but the portfolio is a movie, right? It really grows with the student. And I think of, you and I had talked about this just in our planning, and I know a lot of teachers that are watching are really going to understand this sentiment. But a lot of times students are taking those state assessments, and those results are not coming back in a timely manner. And when they are coming back, maybe they are on to new teachers. Maybe the teachers do not have the time that they did before, had the data gotten to them quicker, to be able to make and adjust those instructional materials to meet those students where they are. I think there is definitely a struggle and a challenge with that. So I love how you are really just encouraging everybody who's watching to find that balance, because,
Yes.
you know, Donna, I don't know that everybody's going to know this, but Donna and I talk often about, we do need the paper and the pen. We do want the digital learning. We want them to be proficient in those digital tools, but we also want them to know, yes, you know, writing on paper and being able, the technical writing is so important as well.
Right.
So I think that is really what we want to hone in on for all of you watching.
Yeah.
We've put together just a graphic here on data, and this really came, Donna, from you. So I want you to speak to this part and really just guide our attendees today to know how to go through that data, how to think through that data process. So I'm going to let you explain our graphic just a little bit.
So I think one of the most important things, right, when we're talking about data, and something you said was interesting, is what sometimes the results come, you know, a month, 3 months, 4 months later, right? So if we, can you hear that? I'm sorry. We're doing the pledge right now. Go back. So we want to find out when, right, when are the students testing? Why are they testing? Is it testing what I learned in class? Is it testing holistically what I know? And as a teacher, right, the results from that data are so crucial, because what am I doing with that data and when am I doing it? So a lot of computer-based testing now might give the results the next day, the next week. But as we look at that data, then we're looking at what exactly is going to be, what the teacher is going to be doing with that data. Am I going to go back and reteach, or do I just take that as one touch point and then I keep moving on. And it's so interesting because when you're talking about standards and you're talking about computer-based or paper-based testing, you might have a standard that has one question. If I don't understand the content from which that question was derived, I may have missed that standard, let's say. And so the problem is that there's an indicator that I didn't satisfy my requirements for meeting that standard, which may not be exactly true. Sorry about that. Which may not be exactly true, right? So we look at, why are we testing the students? Are we testing them for cumulative? Is it a formative assessment? And then the student action is important, Tisha, because what is the student going to do with the data that they received on a paper-based or computer-based, right? Mm-hmm. With their portfolios, with Wakelet, they're able to go back and they're able to see, oh, this was my performance. This is the way that I was performing on that particular assessment. This is the way that I performed. And then the teacher can talk to them, have those discussions about, okay, if you would have done, A, B, or C a little bit different, then how can you now change and make it better? Just like if you're in a real job and you have a performance and maybe you didn't score real well on one piece of your performance, then you can have a discussion with your administrator and say, okay, this is what I need to do better. And then that performance base is so important. And we're talking about choices and reflection, right? We know when we're giving a choice to do something a different way, that we tend to take a little bit more ownership, right? I take ownership in my learning. I take ownership in my teaching. I take ownership in my performance in general. If it's only paper-based, I have no performance, right? And finally, the most important thing, and I've said it earlier, is what is the teacher doing with the data that she has collected? In a portfolio, and I will speak to language portfolios, that is such an important assessment, immediate assessment of what do I think I taught, and then what should my students have learned, and then what are the students actually doing? How are they actually performing? And not only is it an indicator of student learning, it's a true indicator of teacher teaching. And that's where, as teachers, right, we want to start to rethink. It's not just a grade for the students, is what am I doing in the classroom that is making an impact, that's going to be either a stepping stone to something else, or an impact that's going to be a lasting impact. And again, language portfolios are a little bit different because it's like a rope, right? A rope has many threads, and in the threads, right, of the language is the communication. And so that's why that data is so important, especially for those language teachers. But it's any teacher, any content, doesn't matter what you're teaching.
Yeah, I was going to say in that regard, a lot of you know that I taught for a very long time. And one of the things that I was noticing with the students that I was teaching was there was such a disconnect for them from those classrooms to the real world. And they could not connect the why behind, why am I learning this certain thing? And how is it going to help me beyond this moment in time, beyond this grade level that I'm at, right? Mm-hmm. And there is a disconnect. I think with authentic assessment, whatever you choose to do in that, it really gives them that meaning and the why behind what they are doing, which leads us into the purpose of just whatever you're doing for authentic assessment, portfolios specifically. So we put this graphic together. All of these graphics are really meant to help you step by step as you are rethinking assessments differently. So the first thing, and I've said this over and over and over, Donna, you always need to know what your end goal is, whether you are creating a Wakelet collection or an assignment for a student or PD for teachers. Know what your end goal is. Look at those standards, those benchmarks, and those clarifications. And then I want you to take number 2, because I love how you talk about the outcomes, the goals, and what is already in place. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So 2 and 3 kind of go together for me, right? But let me go back to 1 real quick, because yes, we always want to look at the end in mind. However, as teachers, we know that we're always starting with some kind of standard. doesn't matter. You always start with your standard. You look at the benchmarks, you might look at the clarifications, right? You might look at the identifiers. What is it that I'm going to be teaching? And I don't like to look at one standard. I like to look at stacked standards or a multitude of standards, right? Because most teachers do that. We're not teaching one thing. And so I think that one of the most important things is looking at 2 and 3 together, right? Because the outcome is looking at your activities, your assignment, and your current assessments. What is the reason for that assessment? What is the reason for that assignment? And what is the purpose or the reason for that activity? And as you come back together, right, as you put those two together, then you can really look at, what is your goal? Because your goal of giving that activity is sometimes it's a right or wrong answer. But with portfolios or with Wakelet, it's not just a right or wrong answer. It's the idea of a development of learning. Right. So learning is a development. So it's just the development of learning as it goes through activities, assignments, and through certain assessments.
Absolutely. I think as I'm looking at this graphic and the things that you and I talked about and the things we wanted to share with our audience, I think of everything pointing back to number one. Everything should point back to number one and number two. And that includes our number 4, which is SAMR, TPAC, TIMS. Those are integration models to help teachers and guide them in what digital tools they're using to support number 1 in their standards and benchmarks, as well as project-based learning. Everything needs to go back to that, but those listed under number 4 really to help support you. We do and have included resources for you for number 4 and number 5. We're going to get to those towards the end. But the last part of that is the rubric, feedback, reflection, the showcase, and the action steps. So back to Donna's point, it's going to come back to the teacher really guiding and facilitating those students on what's the next action step. You have the rubric, you've given students that, that target on where they need to be. You're giving them feedback, they're reflecting on their work, maybe they're showcasing their work, and then you're giving them those action steps so that it is a continuous loop. Is that right, Donna? Is that our thinking on this?
No, without a doubt. You always have to go back to your standards, right? And you always want to look at your rubric and decide, right? You as a teacher are going to, with that rubric, that's a gauge. It's always a gauge for teachers. Yes, it is something that the students are going to give you, but that is a gauge for teachers, right? Do they have the ability or capability? And I think that, students showcasing. And when I think about Wakelet, I think about art students, right? Music students. They go into a job or they want to go to a museum, they're showcasing their best work. You don't need to see every single brushstroke. You want to see the final product. And those are the things that are the most important.
I think, and that brings us to the next section, which is language portfolio rubrics. We have put this into 2 graphics for you. This is the first portion of that. We've given you some ideas here. Donna and I sat down and we really worked out what would we want to see under each of these pieces of that language portfolio rubric. So a guide going into the reading and writing, Donna, the student written summaries, right? They're actually writing. Mm-hmm. They're actually responding in a journal. Maybe they're writing short stories with a pen and a piece of paper, a personal narrative, or just writing samples. It could be from any class, right?
Right. And again, Tisha, and this is why, when teachers think about portfolios, it's the easiest thing because you take the things, right? The activities, assignments that you're already doing. You're going to have your students write a summary, have them write a summary, but not just write a summary for a grade, have them write a summary and post it, because there's something that happens when you post your best work. Right. Yes. So I'm not just writing assignment to turn it in on a piece of paper. I get it. It might go in a folder. No, right. I'm writing. That's my best work. And so, with language, any language, doesn't matter which language, right? The reading and the writing, and then you're speaking and listening. That's the communication. And the goal of any language teacher is have the students to be able to communicate in that specific language, and here in the United States, right, we're having the students learn English. So we want them to be good communicators of English, not just somebody who can read it or just somebody who can write it. it's that speaking and that interactive part of it that is so crucial. And here, let me take an opportunity to, just promote like other apps, right? Other platforms like Flipgrid. We love our right? Because that's where the students can actually show what they know. They can create those videos, and there's a lot of other ones, but that's where the students can show what they know, how they can communicate. And I will say, when I have seen students do this, they will write a script, so they're writing. They will read that script, so they're reading, and they will read it over and over and over again, because when I have to put that in an audio and I have to put that in a video, I want my best work. So there's a whole lot of learning that goes on, in the background. It's not just that's not a one performance. That's not a one and done. I recently had a student who was doing a flip for me, and he was reading a book, and he did it, I kid you not, about 15 times, because he kept saying, oh, I don't like the way I sound. Oh, I messed up on one word. Wait, let me take a deep breath. So he wanted to provide his best work. And that's the goal. And that's what the kids are going to do when they are able to, as you're flipping, scrolling through this is what the students are doing. They're providing their best work, in a language portfolio. Once they're able to speak and talk and present, it elevates that language so much higher than just a paper and a pencil. So, we love those language portfolios.
Well, listen, I think everything that you have just said really speaks to this collection. And I'm showing this collection early because of that, Donna. And I'm going to start from the end here.
Right.
Because this is actually a teacher giving feedback to the student after going through that entire collection. And that is really our last tip here. The teacher can give feedback on these collections. If you're using classrooms and activities or classrooms, you can go in and you can give students that feedback. So it doesn't have to be perfect to give them that immediate feedback, but it is so important. And like you said, one of the tips that I put on here, and you all will have access to this collection, is to use tools that students are familiar with. Give them a choice in the tools that they're using, but also, if they're actually writing with a pen and a piece of paper, allow them the opportunity to take photos and upload those as part of that portfolio, as part of that authentic assessment. I'm just scrolling up briefly so you can see more of those tips. Another piece of that, you can see some of this I'm not able to see, and it's maybe because your district is having you use a specific tool. Let students demonstrate their knowledge in Wakelet using whatever required digital tools that you have within your district. So I'm going back to our language portfolio rubric, and you can see that Wakelet really does support all of this with that example collection there, the audio, the video. They could put in a podcast. They could do movie reviews. There's so much that they can do inside of that. And Donna and I really talked about, I want to hit on this, reading, writing, speaking, and listening for language portfolios is really going to be the focus. But you also don't want to forget design. Give them a little bit of freedom, right? As Donna was saying in the beginning, you know that you have to meet these standards, but it's okay to let them have some fun as you're meeting that standard. So let them get creative with whatever digital tools that they're familiar with. And then the content is so key. Donna has said that multiple times. You want to give them the opportunity and the space, like the example of the student redoing that video over and over. The more times they do that, you and I both know, the more it's going to stick, and they're going to be practicing and getting better and improving. And we saw in the collection, Donna, the reflection and feedback piece. Again, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic or extravagant, just that one little blurb from the teacher. I think that's something we have to remember. It doesn't have to be a lot of words to the student, but a couple of words is very powerful, just to empower those students or to re-guide them on where you need them to be. So
and one more thing, Tisha, just that, with somebody who's new to the language, it's an opportunity for them to see their progression of learning. So maybe I just got here, right? And I'm learning colors and numbers and words and phrases. But by the end of the year, I have progressed to full-on sentences and paragraphs, right? And I loved that example of the student taking a picture of his handwriting, because you and I both know that there's so much, right? There's so much out there. There's so much augmented reality. There's everything now, whatever, Chat GPT, whatever, whichever one you're using, that I can just speak it in my own language. I can translate it, and then I can put it up there as if I did it on my own. Oh, no, you didn't. You didn't do it on your own. They could even do that when they handwrite it. But there's something to be said for having the students do it in class, take the picture in class, and then having them upload it in class. So, not that all of the students are going to cheat, but they're finding ways, let's not call it cheating, but they're finding ways to, to boost their outcome, right? Just a little bit more. And I've seen it, and I know all teachers have seen it. Anybody who's doing, teaching a language, you've seen it. So that authentic learning is what's most important. And there was a question about, how do I see portfolios taking students out of school? It's a great practice for them to learn how to curate information, learn how to take that technology and use it for presentation in a really professional way. And if you look at this one right here from Jill, you can see that, this is a really professional looking portfolio of work that can be tied to a college application, that might be tied to a job application. Look, this is what I can do. This is what I know how to do. So this is fabulous, right? This is an artist who has, all of these elements to her work that she's able to show, electronically, digitally, and with one link, without a system of, 10 or 15 or 20 different links or folders. This is what it looks like.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you were speaking, Donna. It's like you're kind of reading my mind with all the tabs I have open. But this is Jill's collection. You might have seen her little snippet yesterday on the Wakelet live video. If you missed that video, make sure you go to the YouTube channel /Wakelet to find that video, and you can see Jill talking about how portfolios have really helped her. She reached out to me on LinkedIn last night and sent me her new college portfolio, Donna, and you're absolutely right. She started in high school using portfolios just within that learning environment. She took the knowledge that she learned there and has now applied it into her college. I have no doubt that Jill will take this same process, because it really is a process. Like you said, it's a learning process. She's going to take this into her work as well. So I did want to shout out Jill for sending me that link. And please go check out her Jill Parsons art. You can see she has a design portfolio, like you said, which would be great for those job applications. She's done some research. And then I love that she's named this personal assessment, because you and I have talked about how important that is to walk students through. I just think this is a really great example again, and it's been an ongoing journey for Jill. Just like you said, Donna, it isn't just okay, I'm finished in 12th grade, that was my destination. Now what? Jill has really just extended that learning as she's gone through, and she is using Wakelet to do that. So you're absolutely right. It's my favorite story to tell, those student success stories. I know a lot of your students were on the Wakelet live video yesterday, and it's so great to hear their experience with Wakelet as well. Donna, this is your collection, so I want you to speak to this.
So there's somebody had a comment, and I want to say, you start slow, you start with 1, and then you go to 2, and then all of a sudden you have 30. So, just become a little proficient with 1. Can we get to go ahead and open that up to my collections, Tisha?
Yes. Which collection would you like for me to click on, Donna?
I think just go to the profile to click on the profile so that it's all of my collections on the side.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
These?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want me to click on pedagogy?
Sure. Actually, go to the uncategorized. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep, that's better. So as a district, this is our portfolio of information that we want our students to have. So some of this goes back about 5 years. And if you, every time we have a professional development, we create a collection. We create a collection of resources. We create a collection with the PowerPoint in it. We create a collection of everything that we have for that professional development so that the teachers can go back to that professional development when they want to remember something, right? Or pull an article or pull a PDF. The same thing with the kids. Not only is it a collection of their best work, you might have a portfolio, a collection of all of their work, all of their activities, all of their assignments, so that at the end of the year, when it comes for the end of course assessment, they have something now that they can be learning. That they can be reviewing for that end of course assessment. So these are all of the units that we've covered, or in literature, these are all of the stories, the pieces of text, the literature that we've covered throughout the year. And now I can go back as a student and review. And now I have everything that I want for that particular collection. Again, and it's not something that you have to recreate year after year after year. It is something that you're able to build upon and make better year after year after year.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Donna. I'm going to take us back over to our main resource collection because we want to talk a little bit about alternative assessments.
Right.
We are really coming to the close of our session, Donna. So I want to make sure we hit on just a couple of your favorite alternative assessments. Of course, we've put these graphics in here to just inspire you. But what is your favorite alternative assessment, Donna, aside from digital portfolios? Do you have anything else that you like to do with students?
Well, I mean, there's, the idea of having the students create projects. And I always look at what's the end in mind. And the end in mind is, what am I going to be doing when I leave school? What am I going to be doing when I go from middle school to high school? From high school to college, when they go to college, there are not that many, right? We're getting away from computer-based testing in college classes where the students have to create those presentations. You have to put something together to show everything that you know. And when we talk about alternative assessments, there's two things that we need to talk about. We need to look at the content, because the content, again, goes back to that standard, back to that benchmark, back to what is it that I'm going to be doing at the end, right? So present their understanding of a topic to a larger audience, and that goes back to SAMR or TPAC, right? Can I talk to somebody? Can what I'm doing in school relate to somebody in another country, right? We were teaching SDGs a couple of years ago. Anybody doing some SDG work, there's a capability to talk about the problem of water in the United States, in Florida, in Nebraska, in India, and in Africa, all at the same time. So when I can put something together here that is localized to what my learning is, and I can share that with somebody somewhere else, then that learning becomes so relevant. And for me, it's always about the relevancy and the real world application of what I'm learning.
Absolutely. And so when you all see the resource collection here, our team will put that in the chat so you have access to that. You will see the reading, writing, speaking, listening, and design. It will give you some guidance on how to assess those portfolios and just really come up with your own alternative assessment. But the portfolio piece is so important. I want to get to our call to action, and I want to showcase these resources because you said this multiple times, Donna. You said that this quote is actually from a professor at University of North Texas who's done research on authentic assessment, but there is growing recognition of the power of learning by doing. And I think that's what you've said this entire session. I just want to reiterate that again. I also want you to give our attendees today their call to action. I'm not going to play the video, but I want you to tell me what you told me before I watched the video.
So it was funny. We were preparing, and I said, we just have to get off the monkey experiment. And literally, it's a great video. It's about a 2-minute video. Watch it with your students, because it's the idea that we don't have to do why are we doing what's always been done and we're not getting the results that we want, right? So just because something is the way that it is, that's not necessarily the way that it should be. And again, if you're on Instagram, you'll find, because it'll come up because I mentioned it, you'll find that post about what does education look like in the early 1900s, the 1950s, 2000 and 2024. Those kids are still sitting in straight rows with the teacher in the front, right? That's the way we've always done it, but that's not the way that it always has to be done. Again, right at the district level, at the state level, the district and the state, maybe your school is going to tell you, you have to do this assessment. Computer-based, paper, pencil, doesn't matter. But take some autonomy, you have some educational freedom to do things differently in your classroom. Look at this video. It'd be a great video to keep it for next year for your students to watch and analyze a little bit. I think it's a great way to move forward, to think about things differently. Think about what we know holistically, right? Whole child holistically is the best for the student, and rethink what we know about teaching and learning.
Absolutely, Donna. So our resources are listed below. I've cited this research if you want to go in and read that. I've added in the collection from Miami-Dade. There's some resources there, as well as a teacher. Shout out to those Miami-Dade teachers. And an example of a speaking, listening, and writing rubric, if you want to see what that looks like. And Donna and I also included a couple of resources that I've created for the Wakelet Certified Trainer Program. You have access to those if you want some inspiration. And
Yes.
Are there any questions, Donna, in the chat that we have not addressed
Let's see.
that maybe I missed because I couldn't see all of you while I was presenting?
I will shout out to Elizabeth Polo, who
Shout
is
out to
on.
Elizabeth.
Remember, we met her last summer. Remember?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. There's Amanda
Hey,
Macias. Shout out also to Amanda. Well, Donna, I am so thankful that you were willing to do this session with me. I think it's a very, very important topic. I appreciate you so much and admire you so much. And I just want to give you a special shout out because I think your service in education should really be commended. So I applaud you. I know you're working day in and day out, and I know you're very passionate about this topic, as are many of the teachers in the chat. I just want to go ahead and remind you those resources that Donna and I shared, and all of those links from everything that we shared today are in the chat, as well as remember the competition. You are going to shout out Wakelet Community Week in any of those sessions that you loved. Be sure to use hashtag Wakelet Community Week and tag @Wakelet, whatever social media platform you're using. The certificate link should be in the chat. The link is out there. And we want to remind you to find and bookmark the Community Week profile. It's going to have all of the Community Week information there. You also want to go bookmark the Wakelet YouTube channel. That is where all of those sessions are going to be live, as well as the replays. And you have about 17 minutes to go take a break, grab some coffee, get some breakfast. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing at this time. I'm going to take a little break also and get some caffeine. But the next session, Donna, you do not want to miss it.
No,
Do you know why you don't want to miss it? It is Beyond Digital Citizenship, empowering students online with Jennifer Casatodd and Michael Drezick. I am telling you, I can't wait to watch the session because I know that they are going to give you all some really, really powerful words. So be sure to join back here in just 20 minutes. We will see you soon. And thank you again, Donna. We appreciate everything you do. And we'll all be joining. Donna and I will be in the chat with you for the next sessions.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.